it's not just about IT. You mentioned process, you mentioned data, you mentioned building it like a house, which involves everything. And I think that's one of the common mistakes that I've seen is, it's just another IT project without actually fundamentally changing the process, the data, and those are the kind of enterprise debts that fundamentally, y- you know, doesn't get you to be successful. But Saurabh, if I can ask you, you've heard what Rory described, and you've been a part of that journey, and you've seen so many other modernization stories. What's the art of the possible here, right? What do you think people can achieve, clients can achieve?
But I think two things I will highlight is art of the possible. One is on the continuous modernization side. So another example from a large European client, a financial services client, where we have set up a shop, a people human shop, where we were doing all sorts of modernization on all sorts of systems and applications on an ongoing basis, like a centralized function. And we realized with the AI, we were actually waiting on them to tell us what to modernize. And that's not very efficient, right? When you're trying to look at an organization and look at wholesale, what is possibly should be modernized, what should be prioritized over something else, could all be done if you have the right context fabric of an organization, the right technology roadmap of an organization. You could almost model it to inform you what should you be working on, what should you be modernizing, right? So in this context, we are pivoting that entire human shop into an AI based capability as a platform. And what that platform does is it ingests all the data fabric, all the context fabric, the knowledge graphs, all the business systems, all the application knowledge, and it's starting to now make recommendations on where are the potential loopholes in the organization when it comes to tech debt, when it comes to um, technology debt, when it comes to the technology that is unsupported, and so on and so forth. And with that, what we are able to make recommendation is, here is, if you want to do this, this is the effort it will cause you, this is the, or it will cost you, these are the agents that are available to do it, this is a time frame in which can be executed. And at the click of a button, they can actually decide, okay, so what that does is, to cut the long story short, it helps you make modernization a continuous effort or a continuous activity rather than a one time event. Okay. Now, it doesn't really necessarily apply to if you have to really sunset a large system or a platform, then you obviously have to take it differently. But it does give you indications on what's happening and then be able to act swiftly and make it a routine process. So that's the platformification of how we are looking at modernization in the future, that it is not a one time event, but it is a continuous event. Like if you go by the analogy of George Washington's axe or his grandfather's axe, you know what happened to the axe, that the axe wasn't the same axe over time, right? So it's not the same system over time. Uh, if I take that example and extend that example to on the business side, what's happening, what's out of the possible is that you can do things. And I really like Rory to tell that there are parts of, there are functionalities you can add now that will be revenue generating for you, which weren't previously revenue generating. There are functionalities you can now think about that you would not have ever done, and you can not just deliver them faster, but you can also see how this has become an engine for business growth rather than something that is just a modern tech enabling and supporting business. Now, I think that's the art of the possible. That how can you add businesses and look for those venues that were not available to you earlier if the modernization was thought as Rory and Menzies Aviation has thought about it. So I'll let Rory shed some light on it, but I think this is what's out of the possible, in my opinion.
Rory, do you agree? What's art of the possible for you?
I think the art of the possible for me is execution. You know, um, it's okay being theoretical, but it doesn't make us more effective within our industry. So for that modernization piece, very early we decided what successful was going to look like. So we weren't doing this forevermore. They're hard. These big programs, enterprise level, long hours, the people work incredibly hard. So where is successful? And it's not at the end point, but at what point have you got to success? Success is that the infrastructure is finished, is built. The success is that the data is all in one place. But when have you finished? Whenever you finish, and it may be multiple phases, it may be multiple streams. I think at one point we had 11 separate streams. And then, it sounds so sort of theoretical, but, it's all about the people. It's all about the change management. Do they really believe everybody comes to work and in principle they work hard? That's Homo sapien. So is it making their life easier? And have you addressed the fear that they have of changing their system of what they used to be doing it? And if you can make that successful, the modernization piece has happened. To then bring the thing that at the beginning of this conversation I was scared of, and I still remain scared of because I don't fully understand it, is AI. And the thing about AI, where the real value is what I call within our team our thread of gold. So the example I will use is sort of an end-to-end contract situation. At the moment, purchasing may have something to do with it, sales may have something to do with it. But if you take the thread of gold to have a smart contract, the systems will allow you to understand when they expire. People within that will understand what the pricing is, so it's consistent, which will then create the invoicing so that the customer knows that they're paying the right service for the right price. And then the salespeople will know what the enterprise level value of that customer is. Artificial intelligence is the nerve system that can pull all of those small hotspots of data that live across multiple parts of the platform together to allow you to have a commercial relationship model. And the last piece of that thread of gold is, are you hitting your service levels? So you have a contract to deliver a service and your customer will pay a certain amount. And if you can use the artificial intelligence to track that, you can react to recover. And that is what I will be tasking Wipro and Saurabh to do as one of our first major end-to-end test cases in the AI sphere, building it on top of our platforms that we now have running over 48 airports.
Fantastic. So we know what our next conversation is going to be about.
Well, if it's successful, I'll still be around to have the conversation. And hopefully it will be with Saurabh on the call as well.
I can only say likewise.
Fantastic,
But
fantastic.
but I think that's where it fits. It's the end to end rather than the depth. The depth has to be your platform to give you solidity, consistency, standardization, which helps you training and you change management, and getting to all of the niches and crannies of where everything runs on the data eventually, and get the artificial intelligence to either fill the gaps in, check that things are correct, and that you're being accurate and effective at speed, at scale, and at speed. That's the other thing that is the automatic assumption at the moment, which again causes further fear because it's a threat of losing jobs. But hopefully, your workforce are then doing more productive things than ticking off invoices to see if they match the rates that are in the contract, which was signed 5 years ago.
No, I 100% agree. Look, this has been a fascinating conversation, but before I let you both go, I wanted to, there are a lot of CIOs and IT leaders who are listening into this. And all of them are facing legacy pressures, Rory, that you're facing, and sort of that your clients are facing on one side. And then there's also the pressure and the fear of using AI on the other hand. And what do we do this? How do we leverage it? So Rory, if I can ask you, what are the two things that CIOs need to start doing today? And what's the one thing that they should stop doing today? What what would you what would you advise?
So the two things to start is to have the guardrails in place. so that you know that the data and the pitch that you're playing the game on, your data and which is your intellectual capital and your knowledge, is safe. And whatever AI is running on that, you have the right bots and agents running on data that's, friendly fire. The second thing I would do is everybody in the organization, upskill them, give them the opportunity, even if it's just the very lowest level of, everybody in the organization to understand how to use ChatGPT, of writing emails, because just that very fundamental thing dissipates the fear and gives them the confidence to search and get better. And if everybody, if you move the base quality of your workforce up by 1% by using technology, it will be an exponential increase of allowing that to catch fire. And then I think the thing to stop doing is doing nothing. Stop doing nothing. Stop reading about it. Stop thinking about it. Just get a small group together who are of interest, and just one agent, one workflow, get the insurance policy, get the safety, get the data set in place, and light the firecracker and watch it go off, and see if it has done it more effectively, quicker, more accurately. And then if it hasn't, if you've guardrailed it and isolated it, then what do they say? Let the birds fly free, and if it likes what it's doing, it'll come back. Increase the workforce and the fear. Let them touch it, feel it, look at it. Make sure the environments and the data are protected, and the machine isn't going to go and pull over all of your competitors' information. And I don't think it's a real sentence, but stop doing nothing. And then you've taken, every journey has a first step, doesn't it?
Yeah, do something. Do something. All right, Saurabh, two things to do, one thing not to do.
I think Rory has covered a lot of ground in terms of what should they be doing. I think a lot in common there, but one of the things I definitely would say is about the talent too. I think talent across the board, not just their partner talent, their own talent, and identifying. This is on the concept of AI, because this talk is about also modernization. So definitely, I'll talk about that in common with Rory, that enabling the talent and making them in whatsoever form, giving them access to the technology and enabling them to use it in whatever form, way, or shape, which is what we are also doing at Wipro, that training hundreds and thousands of people on a daily basis to latest and greatest tech that applies to their client environment. So that's one thing that everybody must absolutely do. I think the other thing is, don't wait on the modernization. This is the opportunity, because ask for the impossible is my second advice, that you can actually expect things you would have, like, establish some lofty missions on what to modernize and how to modernize. Don't be afraid, because at best, now the technology is there that you can see early proof very fast, and you can fail fast truly. So don't wait on modernization to happen, when something else will occur. So I used to hear that I want this modernization done in my lifetime. You can actually do it and you can actually now do it in your tenure, forget about lifetimes, right? Like when you're in that role, etc. So I think it's very possible. Like I already said, 25 months and, it's 48 stations, whatnot. So I think that's the second thing. Then don't wait on your modernization for some event to occur or a project to be shaped for modernization to occur. I think opportunity is very ripe for you to do that now. I think thing about stop doing it, that look, the technology today gives you an opportunity to get very productive and efficient, but it is more than that. Like what I think Rory touched upon it in his modernization narrative that, this is a time to really pivot and reset what you can do with it. So there's an aspect of what you can achieve on the business side, what you can do more with the technology. So stop looking at it just as one axis lever to reduce cost and be productive. I think there is a lot more that one can achieve with besides being just a cost lever. So I think that's one thing I would say, that stop looking at it just from that one single lens and move beyond the POCs, right? Truly scale and prepare organization. Because, for anything new like this, there's a lot of performance art and theatrics that goes on first before it becomes mainstream. So I would say that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for taking out some of your time. I learned so much through this conversation. I think my biggest takeaway was legacy modernization is not just an IT initiative, it's a business. It has to drive business transformation. And you need to look at it from a people, process, data, culture perspective. And Rory, you mentioned do something, and sort of you said have lofty goals. So the technology is there. I think now what we need is some bold leaders, right, like Rory, uh, to get executing on it. And I think I'll tell you my story. When I started my career as a software engineer doing mainframe programming, and I met my first ever boss, Rory and Saurabh, in New York 2 weeks back, and he said, Saurabh, your code is still there." Uh, uh, and I'm gonna tell him now that, look, do something and set a lofty goal, and we can make things better, and remove Saurabh from that mainframe code. But thank you so much for taking out the time. This was a fantastic conversation, and now we also know what's the topic of our next conversation. So it sets it up perfectly.
Rory, thank you. Saurabh, thank you so much also for this opportunity. Appreciate and really enjoyed the talk.
Likewise. Thank you for your time and very interesting.